This show is sponsored by HiveMind CRM. It is more than just a CRM. It is a real estate and business mastermind that comes with an all-in-one CRM. You can have unlimited websites and users. You can call, text, RVM, and email all in one user interface. And you can set up custom automations for any type and multiple businesses. 65% of companies start using a CRM system within the first 5 years of business. Once implemented, the HiveMind will save you on marketing, give you more time, and make more money. One of our users had his first $100,000 month using our system in June. We want to see you automate and accelerate your business. Text us at 210-972-1842 for future meetings and, of course, to get our $1 course on how to make more than 6 figures on one land deal. You can schedule your free demo today at hivemindcrm.io.
Hey, welcome today. We're here with Joseph Rockey out of Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and we're going to talk about some real estate deals, business, all that good stuff. So before I jump into it, I always like starting. How did you end up here? Like for me, I was a truck driver. How'd you end up flipping real estate and wholesaling, all that good stuff?
Well, my senior year of college is when that recession hit. Not the one that's hitting to probably anyone who's listening to this 2 months after the recording, but the one that actually happened in 2009, I guess. And I got a double major in accounting and finance. And the whole time at college, I was only doing sales gigs, learning how to live off commission, because I found that I make a whole lot more money selling a bunch of knives than I did, working at Sam's Club. So I did that throughout college. And then, like I said, all the jobs were drying up. Everything was going away. I actually turned down 2 great places that I wish I wouldn't have in retrospect, thinking that I'd get something better right down the corner, right? So I end up signing for the one place that finally accepts me. I'm selling life insurance and annuities. And the whole thought process there was, these guys are going to pay me residuals. So therefore, when I'm in my 40s, I'll get paid for work I did in my 20s. It'll be awesome. So for 3 years, I'm working there. First year, I'm rookie of the year. Second year, I'm the underclassman. Third year, I left. And I left for a lot of reasons. One of which was they kept changing the product on me, and I felt that they were downgrading it. Another one was at the end of the day, I finally read the residual contract, and I was getting 0.1% of everything I made, which in English made I'd have to work for 1,000 years to get 1 year's salary and residuals. So that ain't going to work. So I'm sitting around going, all right, how can we do this? What can be better to actually get some residuals? And rentals just kind of flooded to me. At the time, I was already kind of doing seminar marketing to try to sell life insurance to people, which, is always fun. Like, hey, you guys who are totally healthy and psyched to come to this concert or a conference, rather, you're about to die. So let's buy some life insurance. So, I mean, that's always just a fun thing to do. But I'm sitting in the back of an acre meeting, which is the real estate group here in Pittsburgh. And I'm realizing that most of these people are just here because they want to complain about the tenants. And that's always fine. That's life. I totally get that now. But They all were working way less hours than me. They all were making way more money than me and having funner and better lives. So I was like, well, I'm going all in then. Like, I'm not doing halfway where I'm wasting 60 hours a week for nothing and for closing it. So in the first year, I started 2 flips basically at the same time and started my first rental company, all based upon what I had saved up from selling all that life insurance. And I'm really glad I did 2 at the same time, because I think like everyone out there's first flip's always a disaster. It always is. But the fact that I already had the second one halfway started before all the problems of the first one kind of settled, I think was really good for me. I don't know if I'd still be here if I didn't get through there, because that first one was certainly rough. And then, everything after that gets a little bit easier. You learn different ways to fail, but, eventually along the way, you run out of ways to fail. And I think that's where I'm at now.
So I want to mention your first little comment that was slick, but I heard it was your foreshadowing of when the stock market, when the real estate market falls.
Oh, yeah. I mean, yeah, you can see it. It's almost a direct line between the rental market's going to go first. Once evictions start for real being allowed to happen, you'll see that everywhere pretty much at the same time. So, and then once the realtors start going and people realize, like, I'm buying 2 rentals for the price of one, it slowly tricks away. And then the other part of it is at some point, banks are gonna want to get paid. And let's face it, there's two things that drive this economy. It's money and oil. And when the banks get pissed, everything else comes down with it. And since March Madness of 2 years ago, no one's been forced to pay their mortgage or their rents. So eventually that bill's coming due, and it's going to come due in a hard way for a lot of people. The ones who exploited the system are going to be the ones who got bit.
Yeah. I'm trying to get as ready as possible because I know there's going to be plenty of opportunity out there once it does happen. So this is my first cycle. So I've been an investor for 3 years and some change now. So I've kind of seen it, how crazy it's gotten. And I'm like, okay, get ready. It's coming. Something's coming. There's a wave coming. So I'm kind of prepared, but it's kind of exciting to see, and it's coming. And now I'm like, you have the foresight. Like I see the future, and like there's gonna be so much opportunity when it comes. And it's just like,
it's not really that hard to see either. I mean, you think about it, at least where I'm at, the majority of landlords have 4 properties or less, 4 doors or less.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously there's these mega companies that own giant apartment buildings and all that. And quite frankly, they're not going to be affected. It's the guy who's basically got stuck having his mom's house because he didn't want to sell it or whatever, put a tenant in there. Tenant didn't pay for 2 years. Essentially, the money they gave us here in Pennsylvania more or less covered maybe a month and the taxes you have to pay on your property. Amazing how that worked. But so I've had a house 24 months, haven't gotten paid on it. It's going to be destroyed. No one's ever evicted a tenant and gotten an awesome house back. So it's not going to be good. And what are you going to do? You're going to spend more money trying to fix it? Probably not, because you don't have it. And there's going to be enough people out there and just getting rid of these houses, not to mention the mental toll of what this house was and the experience you just went through of not getting paid and now all of this torment of it. And that's why they're going to exist. I know my companies, we basically refinanced everything in preparation of this. And we're totally ready. It's going to be fun.
One of my earlier deals I was working, they're losing their house because it's just debt from credit cards, debt from the mortgage, debt from everywhere was coming down on them. And the people not paying tenants was their family, and they don't want to deal with their family. So I had to come in and evict their own family out of their house through court.
Well, you're not in Pennsylvania then, because trying to get rid of existing tenants here is a nightmare. They bring out these studies, and who knows how accurate they are, but Pennsylvania is the 5th most friendly state in terms of laws to tenants. So to evict someone else's mistake is very, very hard to do here compared to getting rid of your own problem. You get rid of your own problem. I mean, it's not awesome, but you can do it. You get rid of someone else's, it's 3 months and 3 extra court appearances. It's brutal. But yeah,
that's crazy, man. So let's talk, since you kind of started, how long have you been in real estate?
11 was when I dove on, 2011. So yeah, 11 years, and that weird year where it's both 11 years and since 2011. Yeah.
11 years. Wow. That's amazing. So a lot of experience, a lot of deals. You kind of spoke in the beginning that you were flipping for a little bit, and then now you're just doing strictly wholesale. What was the cause of that?
Yeah, it was weird. I was doing about 3 flips at the time. This is probably 6 years in, so about 5 years or so ago now. We and like I said, 3 crews going at the time, and within 3-ish weeks, they all just fell apart. I don't know if I did something different or if it was just coincidence or what, but they just did. And the stuff didn't get done that was supposed to get done. One of them got sent to jail for not paying his child support. It's like, I basically just got done with it, because the way that I was already at that point, and really all the way until COVID started, was I was spending all my time on acquisitions because, quite frankly, you get a better deal. Even if you mess up the rehab, you bought it low enough, you're still going to win. Yeah. So acquisitions is my most important part. I'd be in 20 new houses a week, just making sure that I'm seeing enough places, because you see enough places, something will work. It's just hard work of it. So I really was simultaneously not having enough time to babysit them and realizing that running the acquisitions was better. Because the other part was I was also getting properties that were rent ready, but I just had to do creative ways of purchasing it, whether it be buying them on terms or what have you. And those houses I kept into long-term rentals with the tenant having an option to buy. So with those properties, I basically sell the dude an option up front to buy the house. He gives me a nice little down payment that's not refundable. So you get paid $5,000 up front. He's paying the rent and he's responsible for everything that's ongoing. Because I explain it to every tenant I have, this is not a landlord-tenant relationship. This is a buyer-seller relationship. If your pipes break, you're not calling up your mortgage company and complaining about it. You're going to figure it out. So that model works exactly what I want to for the wholesaling market, which is keep the good ones, and the ones that aren't worth keeping, that are essentially true flips, sell them to guys that still want to do a cruise. And that basically has been my life for the last 5 years or so, maybe 5-6 years.
So are you doing contract for deed, or how are you doing those owner finance deals?
In terms of the acquisition, all kinds of different ways.
Purchase.
Yeah. So all kinds of different ways. It really depends upon the relationship I can build up with the current seller. So they're all land contracts when we do them over time. And it's just, I'm going to buy this for outright. Sometimes I put a down payment down. Sometimes I don't. I try to keep them relatively short, 8 years or less in terms of when I'll pay out the back end. And the big reason for that is that the amount I'm like, take a property I have right now. I'm paying the woman $400 every month ongoing, and she's getting, like I said, $400, and I'm covering the taxes. The tenant that's in there is paying me 11 and change. He's on the hook to buy it from me when he exercises his option for an additional 35 more than my total out the door is. So every time I'm paying this woman every month, it's reducing the amount I still owe her. Every time he's paying me because it's rent, it is not reducing it. So he eventually is going to go to a bank, have his credit happy, and the bank's going to come and say, boom, here's the big check. I then will complete my purchase with her that same day and just keep it all going. So that's how I structure, and that's why they are structured differently. So my tenant has, like I said, 2 separate agreements. He has a rental and the option to buy. So if he violates the rental, I can just evict him. And if he doesn't exercise the option, he lost the option. I mean, it's 12 months, fixed price. Are you going to buy this house or not? And the thing that I've really liked about this model is because you're essentially requiring the $5,000 up front, it self-motivates. It gets rid of the problem tenants for the most part. And I basically end up with 1 of 2 groups. I get guys who had no idea how credit worked when they were younger, and they got good jobs. They just haven't fixed their credit score yet. Or I'm getting people whose divorce attorney told them to destroy their credit out of spite. And there's a very large group of that. So I pair them up. At the time, Cousy was the company I used. They've since been bought by apartments.com. And Cousy, at least, I don't know if Apartments still does this. I probably should have checked that. But Cousy would tell Experian, hey, this guy's paid every month. And the tenant's credit score would improve the same as if they were paying their credit card on time. So it's a great thing in that regards. I'm helping people out ultimately on the houses. It's incredibly profitable to be that middleman. And like I said, it's no ongoing maintenance. It's essentially, Cousy goes, collects their money, gives it to me. And if not, they hound the hell out of the tenant because Cousy gets paid a cut of the action, or now it's Apartments, but they get paid a cut of the action anyway. So they want to make sure that the tenant keeps paying just as much as I do. So it's nice to have a partner. Yeah, exactly. I mean, little Jeff Goldblum popping up in all the emails probably helps too.
You only do a 12-month balloon on that?
For the first option, yeah. So for the first option, I give them 12 months to come up with the funds. At the end of 12 months, we essentially evaluate whether or not I want to keep you as my tenant. Unless, of course, they buy it. They buy it. It's no issue. It's their house. I'm out. And at that 12-month cycle, if there's someone I want to keep, we then will do an 18-month, but we're going to raise it up to whatever the current market projection will be. So, you're looking a year later. The initial one we do is what we think is worth today. Then when we do the extension a year later, it's what do I think it'll be worth 18 months from now? And is
that rent and purchase?
No, just strict purchase, because the rent's completely unrelated. So on the second option, I don't make them come up with another $5,000 because at this point they've already been a great tenant, and I'm going to be raising the back end sales price by normally at least $10,000, which to them doesn't really matter because to them it's $7 a month on their mortgage. It's not the end of the world to them. It's more so they want this house, they want to stay here, they want to see it through. I get an extra $500 at that point, or whatever. That's the other part. It's an option. You can charge whatever you want. You can make up these numbers. So that's how we do it. So then at the end of, really, we're 2.5 years in, their credit is normally good enough at that point where they'll be able to get a mortgage. Or the other thing that happens, unfortunately, is when I get a bunch of single mothers there, they will find a dude to want to move in with him. And then it's like, well, now I just got to go through this again. It's not the end of the world, because when people leave on good terms, the house tends to be good. It's just now the kids' room is Barbie pink, and that's a thing. But that's part of the freedom people like. I'm not micromanaging them. Part of them cutting the grass is them being allowed to do whatever they want to the house, as long as they don't burn down.
You're not getting burned on the back end. That's the biggest thing, because the turnovers is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
Turnover is ridiculous,
and there's so many people who know how to play the system to be able to essentially live for free.
It's a crazy world out there, and it's hard to find good tenants. But when you make them put their money where their mouth is, you definitely get a better tenant.
Yeah, and the thing that I learned before this, even before I started doing the options, was don't ever give them a fridge. If you make a tenant haul a fridge into the property, it's amazing how much different it is, especially if you're in a place that has a couple steps in it to get to the kitchen, whether it be outside or inside. It's amazing just how much one appliance, and the fridge is the heaviest. That's why I say that. Makes a difference. It's something that's crazy, but that's
a psychological thing.
Oh yeah, no, it's real. So
Never heard that before.
Oh, it's something I totally recommend to everyone. If you're not doing a rent to own where they have money that's essentially lost if they don't get it, if they don't do their job, make them bring in the fridge, because they care about that. That's heavy. Even if they're paying rent a center for it or someone like that, they're feeling the extra money every month. That it's something that's real.
Yeah, short story. I moved to California, and I'm actually renting right now just because I didn't have opportunity to buy, and I'm like, I'm gonna find a sub two eventually. Mm-hmm. So I've been looking for sub twos, and they made me bring a fridge. I'm like, these bastards.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, like I said, you moving that thing around, it ain't easy. It's just, I don't know why exactly, but it's true.
Yeah, it's a crazy opportunity. So how do you find these opportunities? Are you just straight acquisitioning, wholesaling everything you can, and then whenever you get an opportunity to do a land contract with these, that's what you do? Yeah,
I mean, if the numbers really work, I mean, I'll just use. I have a network of lenders too that if someone wants me to buy it outright. So it all depends. So the way that I'm essentially structured right now is I'm the kind of person who likes to be out there doing stuff. I can't really sit behind a computer and mind the internet. But the joy is there's a lot of people who are the exact opposite of me. So essentially what I do is I pair up with folks like that. And some of them are local and some of them I've never met in person. The one guy lives in Florida, and I've met him once. That's because he was driving on his way up to Toronto and just basically stopped by and we had a burger together. So at the end of the day, what I do is I pair up with people who want to be really good at data mining, essentially, whether it be through Google ads, Facebook methods, or however you do it. They put the appointments on my calendar. We have some basic questions that I'd like to have answered just to make my life easier. I like to know what the mortgage is, why the guy wants to sell it, stuff like that, just so I know what situation I'm about to walk into. You don't want to walk into someone's house and find out they're selling it because, their sister's crazy and they can't deal with, the fact that mom just died as is. Like, that's good knowledge to know before you walk into a house. But so I find them by these guys constantly filling up my calendar. They obviously get a cut of the back end action. We're making a company together, an LLC together. So they fill it. And then, like I said, the hard part really is once you're in front of someone, how do you get them to agree to sell you the property for a price that works? And there's no way I can tell that in a hours podcast or anything. Yeah, that's 11 years worth of experience. So, but getting that, and then the other part of it is there's just so much of it that's just raw math will never work. If I need to buy a house for 30 grand and the mortgage is 50, well, I'm sorry, bro, I'm not gonna be able to buy this. And that's part of why you need to go through so many. So one of the things I tell someone when they approach me, if they want to be a partner, is you think of it in terms of baseball. I'm not going to have a great batting average, but my slugging percentage is going to be through the roof. Like when we go up the bat, we're getting a double or better. Like, we're not wasting time on these little things. And some people that's okay with, and some people it's not. But, my average wholesale is 5 figures. So when I step in and do this, we do it right. And it also gives you a lot of way room in case you're wrong. Because the other thing that I do that I think a lot of wholesalers do wrong is I actually buy the property. I'm using an actual agreement of sale rather than an option to agree for sale. Because what so many people do nationwide and also here in Pittsburgh is they'll tell Miss Property Owner, I'll buy this house from you for 120 grand. And I'm going to give you 500 down now to do it. And I'll finish the purchase in the next, 30 days. And what they then go through their own marketing channels and see if someone will buy it for more than their agreement. Mm-hmm. And if it works, great. No one really cares. But when it doesn't work, which is more often than it should be, the Miss Property Owner is now sitting here being like, I planned my whole life around getting rid of this house. And now you're telling me it's not happening. So it's chaos. So I don't do that at all. Everything I do is with legit, it's I'm buying it. Now, that doesn't mean that during the road between me having the thing under contract and the sales data, I agree with the property owner. I don't sell it to someone else to do it. But it does mean that if I don't find someone else, I will take on this property. So every single number I do is with the mindset of this will be mine. And the other part of it is having been a flipper is I know what people will pay for this. So like, I'll know if it's a good deal or not. And I think that's the mindset you have to have that puts me all in on everything once we agree upon it. And there's no, I hope I find a buyer or anything like that. So that's a big deal of what I do too, that I wish there was more laws around, but not too many things I wish there was laws around, but that's one of them because so many people get taken for a ride. They get $500 at the end of the day and essentially messed up their lives.
So one thing I think people want laws around it, but once they invite that monster of more laws around it, stuff gets created that you don't want.
Oh, yeah. No, I 100% know that. I have lived that in so many ways. Like I said, there's very, very few things I agree with, but when people essentially are lying for a hope of a slate. And the other part of it is the guys that are doing it like that are doing it so wrong because they're only making like $1,200 a deal. I want to be able to that if I only do 5 deals a year, no one in my household can tell the difference in terms of money that's coming in or not. Like that's why I started doing flipping. I do my first flip. I made almost 13 grand on it. I was like, okay, that was a pain in the ass. The second flip was over 50. I'm like, okay, this is why we're doing this. Like this is now worth the extra hassle and everything. That's why I said in the beginning, I'm glad I had the second one started before the first one was done because I'm very fortunate that I actually made a profit on my first flip. Most people do not. But to be able to see things through, and it really does come down to acquiring the right property at the right price. To me, acquisitions is so far important that I can't hold anything back about that.
So how do you, I know I'm sure it's probably an experience thing, but is there a tip or trick you can help people to find private money?
Oh, to find private money, most of it has honestly fallen into my lap. So just having been around, and when I was at the very beginning, like I said, I went to Acre a lot, and that's a group of people, both flippers and landlords, that just go around and constantly meeting. And, once a month, people kind of feel like, okay, you're actually here for a while and you're staying at it. And that's how I got introduced to 2 guys. I literally was in the lobby of the bar, or the lobby of the hotel at the bar, drinking a couple of beers, just talking to people. And this guy goes, you seem like you know what you're doing. Next flip you have, you need a lender for it. And I was like, well, yeah, how much you charging? And just from there, it was an organic conversation of whether or not we would be a good fit. So I guess at the end of the day, that my answer would be just put yourself out there and keep talking to people, because I have gotten exposed to lending options that had I not done that, I never would have been there. And then, once you create a couple relationships with guys, they always tend to have other friends who are lenders. Like I have gone through 2 different people that ran out of money because they gave me too much money to put into flips. And just for a 6-month period until my house got done, they couldn't give me enough money for the next one whenever I was doing 3 at the time. And he referred me to a guy who's like the next tier up in terms of having money available. And it was like the easiest deal I've ever done. Really helped that the flip itself was very easy, but it was one of the easiest things ever, and just kind of
you got to referral at that point.
Yeah. So, like I said, I think that the number one answer is basically always be direct, because I don't want to sit here and make it sound like every single flip I did at the beginning was easy. No, we had some failures and some hard times and all of that, but always just be direct and honest with you guys, especially the money guys, saying, because if they've been doing this for any amount of time, they've seen more problems than you can imagine, and that's just the way it is. So be direct and always be honest. And I think that that's the best thing that I can say to someone that's there. You know, as long as you're doing everything in good faith, the rest of it essentially will take care of itself.
Yeah. We're learning that right now. It's kind of crazy though, but now money, like when we first started, it was really hard to get money because no one knows you. And then once you're around long enough, people are like, oh, what are you doing? Mm-hmm. Can I help?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest fear is people's first one. I don't know what it is out where you're out in California, but I know here in Allegheny County, it's over 97% of the people who do their first flip will never do a second one. So it just because A, it's really hard to do, and B, most people try to squeeze their numbers because most people have never had a commission-based job. So when they hear a gross profit of 5,000 in their head, they're like, that's 5,000 coming into my pocket. And having done this enough, I'm like, that is way too small. I mean, you need to have significant margin because A, there's taxes, there's holding fees, there's all this stuff that just goes up when things don't go perfectly. But everyone has this desire, like, oh, I know what I'm doing. I got this great crew. It's going to be awesome. Like, no, it won't. It's going to implode at some point. And because you're not doing this full time, it's going to bite you. And that's really the common thread is, we get people who are, doctors and lawyers and stuff that don't want to stop their practice, but think that they can just tell this crew and show up on Friday afternoons every once in a while and think it's going to work out. And it never does. It never, ever does. So that's why I tell people, pair up with someone who knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
You don't have the time to do this. Pair with someone who is doing this full time and, has the capability. It's great that you're bringing the money to the table. Let someone else bring the expertise. You guys make a great company and, make some money along the way. And that's really been my mindset with everything. I gave you the wholesaling example before, but same thing with all of it. Before I learned what an option to buy was, and I was being a true landlord, I had a guy who was just a really angry old guy who every tenant hated, but they listened to him, did what he said. And it was great. So like I said, pair with someone who's better than you. Don't try to pair with someone who's like you. Try to find someone who's wants to do the stuff that you don't want to do, because there's normally value in it. You just don't want to do it. And that's just your personality. Everyone has blind spots like that in their personality. And that's the way we are.
Yeah. It's focus on your strengths and let go of the weaknesses, and partner or hire the weaknesses.
Yeah. Would you rather make 100% of zero or, 50% of something?
So how are you marketing in Pennsylvania? Because it might be the markets have changed. They receive better to different marketing techniques. So what's your marketing technique that's working for you in Pennsylvania? For
me, acquiring stuff or getting tenants and selling. So for acquisitions, we have 4 main lead partners right now, and there's some overlap, but one of them essentially is like the best spam mail marketer I've ever seen in my life. Like, I don't understand it. It works. Boom. He's great. At one point, I was 8 of the top 10 Google searches until they started to realize they were fighting themselves. Then we kind of lowered the amount we were spending there. Obviously, a ton of Facebook and Instagram, mostly Facebook, because there's just so much of it out there that for the last 2 months or last 2 years especially, half of the crowd, if not more than half, that I would buy from didn't have to sell. I mostly bought from people that a bank was going to kick them out of their house. So they wanted to try to get at least something before they got kicked out the door, maybe salvage their credit or whatever. So that was a very big percentage of my purchasing power or clientele that just disappeared overnight. So that group's there. Obviously, there still are people out there that for life events needed to sell houses. And that's what we've been doing for the last 2 years. Mom died. We don't want this house. We know it's broken. There's I got a job halfway across the country and I don't want to be in Pittsburgh where it's cold anymore. Florida's awesome. I'm like, I get it. They're like, but I also like this guy. I'm going to be buying a house off him on Friday. He moved in, he bought it. He's had all these great visions, all this, everything. And now he's just like, you know what? I'd rather be in Florida. I'm like, okay. But if you fix this house and finish it, you're going to make way more money than if you sell it to me. He goes, yeah, I know, but I don't care. I just want to be in Florida. I'm like, okay, yeah, we can work with that. So that's a big part of what it is in terms of acquisitions. It's just getting the most appearances in front of people, and that's, like I said, combination of the way the four guys are currently doing it. That's really how it's working here.
No, it's interesting. PPC is very, very interesting. So we like PPC ourselves. That's we use PPC in texting right now.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't even rank we do nationwide PPC.
Okay, yeah.
So it's interesting, very, very interesting. But I like PPC as a lead generation. We mostly do Google. We try to stay away from Facebook and Instagram ads just because we learned it was a lot more leads. You have to dig through the leads, whereas Google's are always hot.
Yeah. We have an intense scrubbing process. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
It's mostly automated now, though, which just kind of really makes it. But yeah, if you look at from initial click to me being at the front door, yeah, you're definitely right. Google's certainly a higher percentage than Facebook is. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's weird how that works, but I guess the Facebook doesn't produce a good type of lead, especially if you're doing direct to seller marketing, in our opinion. It's just one of those things, but all marketing works. That's the beauty of it.
Well, see, for me, it works. It doesn't really work on the acquisition side. It works great on the offloading side.
Oh yeah. Let's talk about that. That's
yeah. So first off, I do something that's not even hard, but no one else will do it. I read this study. I want to say it was on Bigger Pockets or something like that said the average person will not scroll through 4 minutes worth of pictures. This essentially, it was an argument not to upload 200 pictures about your property that you're trying to sell. But what they will do is they will mindlessly watch a 4-minute video of the exact same property. So it's not the property that matters, it's the format. So I mean, you've seen every single iPhone commercial for the last 6 years being how their cameras are great and every other phone in the world. So it's not like I'm doing anything complicated. I literally walk through a property and I film it. I come back to my desk right here, use very basic editing software. I dub over a voiceover talking in the exact same equipment I do. It takes about an hour or so, then I put out a video and I put that on Facebook. And it's amazing because the joy of YouTube is they tell you exactly how long people watch and all this. I can see which property is getting the attraction on, which one do I have priced too high? Because for average, I price that at a point where it takes about 200 views for me to get the right guy. And it's really just kind of a way for me to do this, but it's something that's incredibly easy. It's not really hard, but no one does it in the prolonged period of time. I've told this to basically all of my competition to their faces. They'll do 1 or 2 videos and stop. And it's like, that's not good. Like, you realize how easy this is and how much better it is, because you might be looking for a certain type of house. I'm looking for something completely different. And based upon the pictures, we both might think it's a good idea. Well, now I sit down and watch a video and go, yeah, you know what? That one's not for me. Well, if the guy was just doing it with the pictures, he would have had to show it to both of us and waste your time coming out there for something that could have been really basic, that if the guy would have known about it. So now you got essentially a client who's less than optimally happy versus, you know what, I saw it, it's not the right house for me, which is fine. I mean, obviously not every house is for everyone, but now it's boom. And for tenant selection, it is fantastic. Like some people, the old school ways, wants to show the tenant with 6 other people wanting to get this same house. I'm like, no, I'd rather just have the one guy, a private viewing, and then me essentially make my judgment upon him rather than doing an open house for 3 nights a week. Like it's a different mindset. It's like, it's not that much effort, but it saves so much time on the back end.
So what you're doing is, kind of summarizing it, is you're getting a video of the property, and you're putting that on YouTube, and then you're using ads to drive people to that video to find a tenant?
Oh, I don't even need to do the ads. Once I got the video made, I just literally just drop it on Facebook rentals, and people will come to it because it's a video. It gets circulated faster than the picture ones. Facebook's own algorithm sells it for me. So, and then for the wholesale market, I just have enough wholesale guys on my buyers list. I know what they want. When I walk into a house, I know if I'm wholesaling or keeping. I basically can just tell, and I have enough guys. I'm buying for them. I know what they want, and it's like, how much profit can I make by talking this guy down and selling it to me? I know what these three companies are going to pay for it. And so for my wholesaling side, it's nothing. I just drop it in their inbox, give him a text, hey man, did you see the email I sent you? Get a call back about half an hour later. Yeah, man. And then we fight over price. But that's just that's part of the game too.
So you're using Facebook groups, rental Facebook groups, to drop it in and just call it a day. For
the wholesaling, yeah. For the actual tenant, I just put it under properties available. There's nothing really. I'm also 100%. I put the people are afraid to put the address in and all that. I put it to a T. This is where it's at. In the video, I take a picture of down the street in both directions. So it's like, there is no hiding where this property is at. I own it by the time it's becoming a rental. Normally, it's in a place where I never have to worry about anything happening to it. But, even if it's not, it doesn't have copper in it anymore. It's not like someone's breaking in. When people break in, it's because they want the copper so they can go get more drugs, not breaking in so they can sleep in the house overnight. For the most part, it's, I want to sell something. And if they, in a weird way, if they know there's nothing there to steal, it kind of protects the house. I never really thought of it like that, but that's true.
You can pay off the neighbor. Well, I know like places like Pittsburgh, it's probably like really dense population. So the neighbor's going to be watching anyway.
Yeah. Everything in the city. Yeah, for sure. We have a lot of houses that are row houses that, bang on your wall, the neighbor's hearing you. So, they're connected outright. And even the ones that aren't, there's an 18-inch gap between the two houses. So that's the thing. Yeah. For the most part, one of the joys of Pittsburgh is people do kind of look out for each other in that regards. And it is cool. And because normally the neighbor cares more who I pick than I care. So
they're stuck with them.
Yeah, exactly. So, I'd be pretty upfront with them and tell them what it is. I've gotten a couple of people going, well, then just put my son in there. I'm like, well, here's the numbers. Your son going to be able to pay it. And, normally those work out pretty good. So, yeah. In fact, actually, we had one guy that he bought the house for his son and then kicked the son into his old house and took the house off of him. I was like, you moved across the street. He's like, I don't care. I'm the one who's paying for it the whole time. It's like, whatever. You guys are crazy.
So what advice can you give somebody because not every market can do that, do your land contract type stuff. Mm-hmm. I think it has to be the right market, just because the values can be different in other places. So make sure it cash flows. How much minimum cash flow you're looking for as far as for your type of deals?
I don't really have a hard minimum on it. I'm more so focused for my rentals that when I resell it, that the margin is going to be there more so than the rental. Because when I'm doing land contracts in particular, because I'm putting the 8-year clause upon it, I oftentimes overpay it on a monthly basis and don't really make that much on the actual month-to-month rental spread. That being said, I never go below like $100 because there has to be something. But I like to get the house fully into my name as quickly as possible. It's just a preference of mine. It makes things a little bit smoother that way. But yeah, it's really hard to beat the buying it directly from someone and no interest on it, because none of mine do I ever put interest on it when I do that. So there's not a true number, but I do make sure that it's at least, I don't buy anything that's less than 3 bedrooms for the simple fact I want to make sure that I'm not putting myself in a niche that 2-bedroom properties tend to do. If I get 3 or 4 bedrooms, I'll be able to replace this tenant if I need to without even thinking.
Yeah, there's plenty of people wanting that. Plenty of people. No, that's a good observation. That's a good experience right there. It's experience. Yeah. No, that's awesome. So where can people send you deals? Because I don't know if you know, we're a CRM company, so we get deals all over the place. Yeah. So where can we send you deals? Do you have like a acquisition email or something that people send you deals?
That's exactly it. It's the numbers 412 and then the word homes, HOMES at gmail.com. The 412 is the area code here for putting the dots together. So yeah, 412 homes at gmail.com. If anyone ever wants to reach out to me, they can do so on LinkedIn. I'm obviously Joe Rockey. And that's pretty much the way to get in contact with me. Whether it be someone who wants to be the lead generator themselves and, make a partnership, or if you guys got wholesales available that you want me to buy from you, either way, that's what I do. I do only operate where I can drive. So I'm not one of these guys who buys stuff in Texas or anything like that. I strictly operate with where I can physically, go to and manage it if need be.
That makes sense, man. A lot of people like they get out of their comfort zone and then they get overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in fact, actually, there's a house on my street right now that happened to. Allegheny County is unique in the sense that when we do a sheriff's sale, the lien holders still have a right. So the way that the law is, first go around a sheriff's sale, every lien holder has a right to get paid back if someone buys it. The second time through, only the first and second lien holder has a right. And the third time through, only the primary lien holder has the right. And then after that, if it's still available, no one has a right except for the taxes. Those never go away. So what always happens is the bank who's owed money will just buy the house back on the third time, and then it becomes a foreclosure. Well, there's many counties in this country that by the time it gets to the public, the bank's already out of the picture. So we had a guy buy this property for $260,000, and you have to put 10% down within 10 days. And then found out that the bank also wanted $300,000 and the house is only worth $400,000. So he just lost all this money up front just by not knowing where he was at. And to your point before about they'll just make rules and not care, that guy's done. I mean, you're never getting that money back. Just thanks for paying Allegheny County taxes. And that's basically it. That's certainly one of many examples I can tell you stupid laws that we have, but that's a thing. Don't go places you don't know.
Understand. Yeah. That's crazy. I've never heard of that one.
Yeah. Well, it's literally right there. Like I can hit that house with a baseball if I stand on my porch. Like it's right here. I can see it.
That's crazy. So I was working a deal in Chicago, and apparently Chicago's like really annoying. So what they'll do is they'll put if you owe a water lien, they'll put it on all your subjective property in your name. So if you own multiple properties, they'll kind of spread it out evenly between all everything you own. So, and apparently they do it all the time there. So if you owe one, if you like, hey, fuck that property, I'm gonna let it go. They're like, okay, we'll make sure we put on everything else you own and make sure we get our money back. Let's just spread it across.
That's crazy. I get that in here, at least we're due, the landlord's responsible for anything the tenant doesn't pay. So all of us just lump the water bill as a requirement on top of the rent. That's what a lot of guys do to make sure that they make not social security, the original sales deposit big enough. Obviously, it's not an issue for me because they're buying the house from me. They actually care about that. They need to increase their credit. So but I've never heard of them plopping it on other properties. I know they have a crazy fee structure that if you get 2 months behind, they just start making up fees that on a $300 water bill, you're getting $50 worth of fees each month for now ongoing. So it's like you'll never catch up with it, which I find to be really stupid. But everywhere's got their problems, but to put it on every other property you own, I think is insane.
It's a fun game you play in real estate. You think it's all fun and games.
Yeah, well, like I said, and they're all just so. I mean, I've never dealt with a bureaucratic official who is in real estate who wasn't in my way in one capacity or another. I mean, when we was doing the flips, it was always the home inspectors who, no matter what I presented to them for the first time, they had to find something that was wrong with it, almost like to justify their jobs.
They had KPIs.
Yeah. So I eventually realized I just got to give these people, first off, none of them want to work hard either. So they're going to click the easiest button possible, and that's going to be it. So every flip I did, once I realized this, every handrail to the basement I took off. Like I left the actual connectors there, but I unscrewed the rail had it sitting right there at the basement floor. I had all of the smoke detectors in the boxes right next to it. I didn't hang any of them because I knew I'd have to hang them before I sold it anyway. But if I give this guy something to see so he can tell his boss he did something, life was just so much easier. And it wasn't saying I was skipping corners anywhere. I was just like, I don't need him making me reline a chimney that's never going to get used. Like, no one cares. I've already capped it. I had a fight with a guy for half an hour about that. I was like, the chimney's capped. It cannot be used. Like, it is unused. You got to put a new liner in it. I was like, he didn't care. It wasn't his $1,200 that was getting spent to do this, let alone taking off the cap. But once I realized that, I leave like 7 things for him every time. One house, we didn't put any of the doorknobs in. They were just all sitting in the basement. So therefore, none of your bedrooms had a locking mechanism on it. Like, all of them. Like, there's just all kinds of little stupid things that we did to deal with that. But the handrails and the smoke detectors were the 2 easiest ones just to get rid of them. Some of them happened by mistake that like, oh, that worked. That's where the handrail thing or the doorknob thing came from. Like the contractor just didn't have them in time or whatever. It was like, yeah, I mean, that's 1 per room. Just make sure they're done. And it's crazy. But obviously when they're doing their electric rough-in stuff and plumbing, that's either black and white. It either works or it doesn't. It doesn't really need an inspector. I mean, you need an inspector for it because the new buyer doesn't need to trust me. But they can't make something up being like, it's either it's done right with the electric and the plumbing or it's not. But it's not like the cosmetic stuff where they can just dive into it. This window doesn't latch all the way. I'm like, you can't lift it. It's latched. What are you talking about? It doesn't get so much stupid stuff I've seen.
What is a quote that resonates with you, whether it's yours or somebody else's?
I guess there's 2. The first would be make a difference always. Okay. And I mean, obviously, I think that's something that's important. You got to have a mission for what you're doing in life. And the second one, I guess I have 3 now because the other 2 I've said. This was for contracts. I was like, I've said that to someone and said, if you want to keep feeding me rainbows and bullshit, that's what I'm going to pay you with. It's amazing how much better contractors get after you tell them that. And then the reports start getting better. And then the other one is treat everyone the way you want someone to treat your kids. And I think that kind of looking at all of that together, that kind of encompasses everything. At the end of the day, if you don't want someone to treat your kids that way, you shouldn't be doing it.
All right, man. That was interesting. So where can people find you on Instagram, all that stuff? I think you said LinkedIn and your email.
Yeah, LinkedIn for the professional stuff like this is LinkedIn and 412homes@gmail.com are going to be the best way to get me. Yep. Right. 412homes@gmail.com.
Well, with that, we'll end it right here. We appreciate your time. Thanks for coming on the podcast. I think we covered a lot of different stuff. Hope people got some value in it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
The show is sponsored by The List Guys. Do you need more leads in your local or virtual market? 1 in 10 small businesses don't invest in any kind of marketing. The List Guys have over 35 plus list types to choose from, and you can mix and match any list or criteria. We also use the skip trace list and provide up to 7 numbers and email addresses. Every list you purchase will be scrubbed against previous purchases. The List Guys are here to save you time. Contact the List Guys today at www.1listguys.com. That's www.1listguys.com.